It's like really long, so maybe I should skip it in a little bit so we don't have to listen to all 6 minutes of it. Go from there. I'll do a slow fade out. It's enough. I feel like maybe we'll switch it up. Might as well just go in, and I think I've got the project open here. So, oh no, I've got a different project open. I'll open it up. Maybe we'll just go straight into talking about that project a little bit. And then I'll come back to this other stuff in a bit. So annoyingly, that EP for Wisdom Teeth, I wrote some of the tunes for, like most of the tunes, like while I was at uni. And I'd held on to them for ages, and they were like really, really special. I'd spent so much time on them. And I'd held on to them because I knew that I didn't really have the like mixing skills to get them how I wanted them to sound. And then had this EP, had these 3 tunes that I really, really liked. And then I was like, I need a kind of like a normal tune for normal people on the release. So I wanted to I wanted to make something a little bit more like simple, like sound design wise, and a bit more accessible. And I've been listening to loads of like Pev, people know Peveralist as an artist. So he's one of my favourite artists. Probably wrote one of the best dubstep tunes ever. And then moved more into like the post-dubstep UK techno stuff. Is still making music now, runs a label called Liberty Sound out of Bristol. And I suppose I just wanted to, I've been listening to loads of his stuff, and I just wanted to kind of like cross that accessible dance music, but also keeping it interesting and like lots of polyrhythms and yeah. So this is probably a lot of people when I tell them how I do this sort of tune. So dance music I find quite difficult to write. I don't really feel like my music is very traditional structure of dance music. It's not always focused on making people dance, which I suppose is the main function of dance music, even though it fits into the techno sort of realm. I feel like my brain doesn't quite compute with the repetitive nature of dance music. Yeah. So this is the project for the tune we just listened to. So it doesn't sound quite the same because I work on a desktop, so this doesn't have all my plugins and stuff on. But compared to a lot of my other projects, it's pretty straightforward. Not a lot of channels, and you can see a hell of a lot of looping in this project, which you'll see when we look at my other projects. It's not usually very common, but yeah, just trying to, as I said, make things a little bit more accessible and easy for normal human ears. And I think it kind of worked somehow, yeah. Frustratingly, this being the most simple tune on my EP, worked out quite well. So, I don't know, is there anything kind of that jumped out in the tune when we listened to it that anyone wants to hear?
The low end is quite good.
The low end? So, this is the, like, it's quite a, like, poppy kick. And then it means I can have this really like horribly low sub, which obviously creates the dynamic range that you want. And I think so my workflows, I like make sound. I like working with audio. So I have I'll show you my setup in a bit. So yeah, I like resampling. That's pretty much like my jam. I'll write some stuff if I have a specific sound I want to make. You know, like I want to make a certain pitch bendy, like whatever, then I'll make it in Ableton. But most of the time, I spend making sound and then using audio and resampling. So this sub is probably from the Monologue. Has anyone ever used a Monologue? It's just a really simple mono synth from Korg, which was the first synth I ever bought, and I still got it, still use it. It sounds just like a little crispy sine wave. You can hear the pops just from the side chain. And then this is another part of the low end. So is this, and that's what's kind of giving it the groove. And that's the main thing I wanted to pick out from the Peb tune. Can you hear the same sort of? So yeah. Is it too loud still? And then, yeah, the other percussion is all quite straightforward. So there's all, like, this one, I think, you can see everything's kind of very static. The complex off hi-hat, it's all quite static. It's not really doing a lot. So even, like, in terms of, you like gain. So I'm not really putting a lot of groove into my hi-hats and stuff, but I've also probably got about 5 hi-hats going at the same time. So I use the different layers of things going on at the same time to kind of create that dynamic range and stuff. So if we listen to this, even though everything's kind of individually quite static, the combination of the things are what's kind of creating the groove. This is I think the main thing that is creating quite a lot of energy in there. So any time in a tune going from, we can hear in this little section here, so going from like changing the frequency range. Come on. So bringing in the high end is what gives it the energy. Okay, so if I take this tambourine out, just that on its own is quite a different sort of, it's just not got quite the, yeah. So it's just about, working out, they're all kind of sitting at slightly different frequency ranges, so they're not clashing with each other, but they're still kind of working with each other, and they're all adding something like unique to the mix. So it's all well and good like chucking a load of stuff in, but you need to make sure you understand sort of where everything is, because sometimes I'll have just stuff in there that I put in like right early on at the start, and I can't even really hear anymore. So it's worth, when you're doing stuff like this, just take stuff in and out all the time and work out what you actually need.
Where do you get most of your loops from?
These are all been recorded through from my drum machine. So I've got I'll just show you my, what time are we doing? How are we doing for time?
We're 10 minutes past 5. So
perfect. So I'll just show you my, go through this stuff first, and then we can see my setup. So this is my drum machine. It's a Electron analog rhythm. Has anyone used any Electron stuff before? I know you have. You know like everything they've ever put out. So it's a drum machine. What's really good about it, why I love it, is because it's got its own. So it's got these 12 pads here, so they all represent a different sound. And then 16 steps, which can go up to 64 steps. So it's all got these like different synth voices. So it's got its own kick and and toms and hi-hats and cymbals and percussion and whatever. But what you can do is you can load on your own sample packs. So I've been building like samples for ages. So on each like kit, you can have 128 different samples, and it just gives you like endless possibilities with what you can do. So you could pretty much write like a whole tune on this, really. I mean, because the sample length's quite long, and if you really like spend the time on it, you can pretty much write like a whole tune just using this. It's amazing. I love it. And it's got like its own LFOs, and then also like velocity processing. So there's like some really weird stuff you can do with that. But yeah, Electron Gear's super good. Sounds super great. I love it. I use it in my live set as well. It's great. So yeah, everything, most of my that's like where most of my drums start. Was I'll just like load on a bunch of samples that I've got that I like, and then I'll build my own like kit, and then just start jamming and recording stuff out. I'll show you another, and then once I've kind of done that like initial thing, so I'll try and put a lot of randomization and probability stuff so that it's constantly changing all the time, like using LFOs. And then sometimes I'll just pick out one little loop. As I said, this one's using quite a lot of just straight up loops, and I'll show you another project where it doesn't really use a loop. So this is something. I think this sounds like I made it from a recording. I'll show you how I did that in another project that I've got. And then, yeah, let's have a look, what are these? FX bits. So this was actually made in Logic. So as I said, another thing where you just go and change your process, go and use different synths. I just was messing around in Logic. I can't remember. I think it's called. I can't remember what it's called. The synth. It's got the little like green wiggly lines in the middle.
Ableton.
Yeah. Anyway, made that weird sound on there. A lot of my best. I think a lot of most people's best music is happy accidents. I mean, there's a lot of time there's a sound I want and I'll make a sound. But a lot of time I just want to play, I want to enjoy and see what comes out. And that's my main process. It's just messing around, putting different effects on stuff. The chords, so this was I think this was recorded on This was recorded on this, so this is another one, and a bit of Electron Gear called Model Cycles, and it's great. It's kind of sequenced, FME, percussion-y modal synth. Sounds, again, really, really good, and it's got a chord module on it, which I just love. It's so good. You can set the LFO so it runs through the different inversions of a chord. So you can get these really like beautiful sort of runs like through the chords and stuff. So I use that all the time for that sort of thing. And then also just making like weird percussion-y, quite bright sort of digi sounds. It's good. So Super 6, I think there's one here. I don't know if anyone's used it. You should.
We don't have one here. We've got one in Manchester.
Okay.
But we may well have a new one coming soon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. There's a guy from Udo who did a pretty much whole talk today, so I'll let him explain it rather than me. SH101 classic. Does anyone know like what an SH101 sounds like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
What do you know? Like, what's the sound?
I mean, I mostly think of it as just like in a lot of Boards of Canada songs. Really.
Yeah, I think the most thing it's classic for is acid sounds. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what was used to make a lot of the early like acid house and stuff. So yeah, it's cool. It's that's on loan from a mate, but he's not picked it up for about 8 months, so not complaining. This is like sends and returns. So I've got a Sherman filter bank, So it's basically like a dual filter with like envelopes, LFOs. You can add in harmonics. It's basically like quite a really unpredictable filter. Makes some really cool sounds. Yep.
Just going back to the previous slide.
Yep.
Use the push much?
The push.
Yeah.
I use it in my live set, but not really in the studio so much because I got a keyboard, and because I did piano like from such a young age, I generally prefer writing stuff with a keyboard. But it's nice. I mean, before I got the Super 6, I had a bit more space on my desk, and I had it set up, and it's quite nice. Like the sequence on it's really good, so it's quite nice. It was quite like novel to use, but I'm just so used to using a keyboard that that's the main thing I use.
So when you perform live, do you just use the session view and trigger?
Yeah, I mean, at the minute, I'm trying to work towards not using a computer at all in my live set. So I've got these two. Clocking it from Ableton is just not a thing. I have to try it with like an external clock, but I'm hoping to invest in an Octatrack, which is another bit of electron gear, so that I can just do everything without a computer, because it always seems to be more hassle than it's worth trying to incorporate both of them. But we'll see. Haven't really had much time to work on my live set recently, so we'll see. Any more questions about the synths? Yep.
So at what point into your productions do you start building a studio? Because I'm entirely in the box at the moment, and it's like always like quite tempting, but it's just about when do you think it actually starts to benefit your productions? The more expensive bits of gear.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't buy anything for ages because I thought I need to understand like enough in the box, and I need to be able to make the box sound good before I'll be able to make a synth like sound good. And also I want to know what like synths are limitations, which are really, really good. That's like, I think the box, it's almost too endless sometimes. That's why like I still do loads of work in the box. Like I have my day of playing and making sounds and doing the fun stuff with the synths, and then I have my day of like sitting in the box and reprocessing everything. So I still use like the box a lot. And I've bought some synths and sold some synths because they just weren't the kind of right sound. So I think it's about learning what you like in the box so that you can then buy what you want. And also just get used to sort of limiting yourself in that environment as well, so that you're used to having the limitations when you're out of it as well. But just it's a slow process, I think. To try and borrow some gear off, like from DBS, like come and use this stuff here, but, you know, borrow some gear off some mates. Yeah, definitely don't. It's not worth it having a synth sitting around that you just don't use. But it was years. Like I don't think I bought my monologue until maybe like after I'd released quite a lot of music. Really, it's good to be good in the box. And there's loads of people who just like just never buy any gear, you know. Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Do you know any others who
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want. I'm not gonna name and shame. No. It's not. It's honestly not a shame thing at all. Loads of artists, loads of mates of mine who don't have anything, just a pair of monitors, and they're really successful and doing really, really well. So, and there's I was chatting to a guy I was DJing with, who I'm also not going to name drop, but he had a huge studio and now sold it all because he's just like, I can do everything I want here and I know how I can get it to sound like. So, yeah, it's definitely not necessary. It's like something I feel like is a luxury, and I've been really like lucky. Like the money I've earned from music, I've put back into my studio, and it's an enjoyable. It's going back to like, you know, switching up your process and getting different output from things. It's a nice thing to be able to do, like switch off from a computer and just play and touch stuff and, you know, jam. But yeah, it's not essential at all. So going back, we got FX units, Sherman filter bank. If you ever get a chance to play on one, I still like it still confuses me to this day. Like, you've got one as well, haven't you?
I don't know, but yeah,
We've
it's
got them
been.
in all the production studios upstairs.
Yeah. It's
confusing beast.
really confusing. But it's like sometimes you get some amazing stuff. Sometimes you get some just like absolute dog sounds, and you're like, whoa. But when it works, it works. It's great. And then behind it is a space echo pedal. So I've just got that. That's actually like a DJ mixer, and that's what I run all of my stuff through. It's got 2 sends, so that's what I've got these set on. So I can send any signal from any of the channels to either the echo or the filter, and then they come through on another 2 channels. So that's really nice, and you can kind of use it like in a like old dub studios, you know, like sending stuff. So it's nice.
So all your gear goes through the DJ mixer.
Yep. And my DJ mix has actually got it's got 2 compressors on it, independent line, low and high pass filters, and like a 4-band EQ. So it's for a DJ mixer, and it's fully analog as well, which is so it's kind of adds its own little
Shimmer.
yeah. Yeah, so shout to Mikey, Function One, sorting me out. Love that guy. And then this is the last little bit of gear of my most recent additions. So this is a SSL Bus Plus and an SSL Fusion. So these are like mixing equipment. So I do quite a lot of mix down work for other people. And yeah, this just makes my workflow like so much easier, really. So the bottom is a coloration unit. So you can add like a certain amount of drive. It's also got like some like a EQing, so high and low EQ if you want to kind of boost or cut out some of the high or low frequencies. And then it's got a high frequency compressor, so just to try and control some of the resonance in that high end, and then stereo image, so it's got space and width, I think. So they just makes your mix sound better. It's really good. Like it depends what you're doing. Like I don't always use the stereo functions on it because sometimes for dance music it can kind of mess up your phasing a little bit. But most of the time it just gives you like that air like that you want in the high end and a bit more space. And it's really quite subtle, like the drive. It's not like a Culture Vulture or something it's not like a really heavy distortion unit. It's a very subtle drive, but it's just really nice. It just adds like that analog warmth. And then above it is the Bus Plus. So it's a bus compressor, and it's got 4 different modes. So classic stereo, dual mono, left and right, and mid-side processing. And it's also got dynamic EQs, which are like obviously really useful. So you're just EQing like portions of the low end or portions of the high end, and you can use that in a sort of compressive or expansive way. So it's just all about like shaping the mix, and it just makes my life a lot easier, and they sound amazing. So they're my most recent additions. I also got given this little, like, has anyone ever seen these, like, pocket operated stuff? Have you seen, like, the thing next to it there is, it's actually a mixer. It's crazy. Like, it's a 6-channel, like, stereo mixer with, all of them have got 3-band EQs, but it's completely portable. And it's got, I think it's got, like, 8 different effects units in it, all battery powered. Incredible. It's so fun. So if you've got, like, I don't know, you're going out. I don't know I haven't worked out when I'd use it out yet, but it's really fun to have in the studio. Yeah, just get a load of pocket operators, do a live set in Castle Park or something. I don't know.